Mistress arrogantly slaps pregnant wife, but Millionaire immediately teaches her a brutal lesson. Whispered warnings about the downfall of a good marriage almost always come too late, and by then, hearts are already broken. Inside a sun-drenched mansion on the outskirts of Chicago, an unsuspecting pregnant wife would soon learn that betrayal lurked behind even the most polished smiles. Within these marbled halls, secrets collided, forcing everyone to reveal their true colors. The moment a brazen mistress raised her hand against an innocent mother-to-be, the stage was set for a dramatic showdown that would shake their entire world. Little did they know, a formidable billionaire sister was about to unleash her unstoppable wrath. Amelia Carter stood in the lavish foyer of the Carter mansion, her hand gently resting on the swell of her belly. She was nearly 5 months pregnant, and each passing day brought a fresh wave of hope and anticipation. The entire house, gilded with Renaissance-era artwork and pristine marble floors, was a testament to the old money and success of the Carter lineage. Yet despite the grandeur around her, Amelia felt uneasy. She could not shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. Christopher Carter, her husband, emerged from his study with a grim expression. The tension in the house felt as thick as the stagnant August air outside. For the last few weeks, there had been strange phone calls at odd hours, suspicious text messages that Christopher dismissed with a forced laugh, and the unsettling notion that a presence lingered in the shadows of their relationship. Whenever Amelia asked him directly if something was amiss, he offered a gentle smile that failed to reach his eyes. He would pat her on the shoulder and say, "You're overthinking, darling. I promise everything is fine." On this particular day, Amelia's heart pulsed faster than usual. The baby, as though sharing its mother's intuition, gave a strong kick in protest. The sound of footsteps, heavy, purposeful, echoed through the hallway. Something about that stride felt out of place. She parted her lips to call out Christopher's name, but before she could utter a sound, another figure stepped in. Veronica James, with sharp hazel eyes and a model's poise, glided in like she owned the place. She was tall, elegantly dressed in a slim, fit black dress that accentuated her figure, and sporting an arrogant smirk that suggested she harbored no fear of discovery. Her lipstick was a daring scarlet that matched the color of her perfectly manicured nails. There was a mocking confidence in her posture, as though she had already declared victory over a war Amelia did not even know had begun. "Christopher, you told me I could drop by whenever I wanted," Veronica announced, letting the echo of her heels strike the marble. "But you never mentioned your little wife would be home today." Amelia stiffened. The audacity in Veronica's voice, the condescending glance up and down Amelia's body, said all she needed to know. In that moment, something inside Amelia broke. The illusions of trust she'd clung to over the past several months shattered around her. She had naively hoped her suspicions were unfounded. She had prayed that Christopher would never betray her, especially while she was carrying their child. Christopher came rushing out of his study, face pale. He shot Amelia an imploring look, as though silently pleading for her forgiveness, even before she could process the full weight of what was happening. "Veronica, the first told you to wait for me to call," he hissed through gritted teeth. "This is not a good time." A wicked gleam shone in Veronica's eyes. She ignored Christopher's warning and sauntered deeper into the foyer, her heels snapping against the marble. Her attention flicked from the swirling staircase to the antique chandelier overhead, and finally to Amelia's face. "I can't imagine a better time," she retorted, her voice dripping with an arrogance that set every nerve in Amelia's body on edge. "After all, I only want what's best for your husband." Amelia tried to maintain her composure, but she couldn't stop her eyes from brimming with tears. "Christopher," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What is this? Who is she?" Veronica let out a short, cruel laugh. "I'm Veronica James, darling. I'm Christopher's confidant," she said, carefully choosing her words. She cast a sideways glance at Christopher, who clutched his hair in desperation. "He promised to help me launch my new fashion boutique. We've been collaborating for quite a while now." The baby kicked again, a frantic reminder that Amelia had more than just her own life to protect. She straightened her spine, stepping forward to confront this woman who had intruded upon her home and her marriage. "If you want his help with your business, you can set up an appointment at his office." Her voice was surprisingly firm, even though she felt a tempest raging within her. "You don't belong here." Veronica's lips curled. "You think you can talk to me like that?" She took a measured step toward Amelia, eyes narrowed. "Don't try to play the saint, Amelia. You might be pregnant, but that doesn't make you untouchable." Christopher tried to step between them. "Stop it, Veronica. This is not what we agreed." But Veronica silenced him with a glare so venomous it could have stripped paint from the walls. Then she turned her full attention to Amelia, who stood as resolute as she could. "Your husband and I have shared intimate secrets, far more intimate than you might realize. Did he tell you about our trip to New York last month, or the weekend we spent at that private villa in the Bahamas?" Amelia's heart thundered in her chest. She didn't want to believe a word of it, yet the evidence spoke louder than her desperate hopes. Tears slid down her cheeks, but she refused to crumble. "How could you do this?" she asked, her voice breaking. Veronica's scornful grin widened. "He's mine now," she said simply, and then, without warning, her hand whipped across Amelia's cheek with a force that echoed in the silent hall. The crack of the slap reverberated along the walls, freezing Christopher in place. Time seemed to stop. Amelia's face stung, tears spilling freely. She raised a trembling hand to her cheek. Veronica stood there, chest heaving, her face contorted with righteous entitlement. And Amelia understood, in that single heartbreaking instant, that her world had changed forever. She felt Christopher's arms catch her from behind as her legs wobbled. The baby's movement was urgent now, as though protesting the violent intrusion. She could barely see through the tears, but she could hear Veronica's mocking laughter. As the echo of the slap settled, it was replaced by a profound, soul-crushing silence. A hush draped the foyer like a shroud, and the memory of that slap hung in the air, etching itself into the foundation of the Carter family. Deep down, Amelia knew she would never be the same again. The mansion, once her safe haven, now seemed like a foreign battlefield, strewn with the debris of her trust. Yet, in that swirling maelstrom of confusion and hurt, a single question flared inside Amelia's mind, giving her an ember of hope. What will Ariana do when she finds out? Ariana Carter was a name whispered with both reverence and envy across international business circles. Rumored to be one of the savviest tech moguls in the country, Ariana had established an empire that stretched from Silicon Valley to the bustling financial districts of Singapore. She'd been featured in major publications, Forbes, Business Insider, and even the Wall Street Journal, all praising her extraordinary ability to transform failing companies into multi-million-dollar success stories. When Ariana walked into a boardroom, bankers, investors, and CEOs alike held their breath. Despite all her success, Ariana rarely flaunted her wealth. She kept a mansion in Bel Air and another on the outskirts of London, but rarely stayed in either place for long. She was constantly on the move, attending conferences, spearheading philanthropic initiatives, or striking deals that made global headlines. Yet, if there was one thing Ariana Carter would never ignore, it was a call from her family. When Amelia first met Christopher, Ariana had offered her blessings with cautious optimism. She was protective of her younger sister, having watched Amelia navigate heartbreak and betrayal in previous relationships. Ariana had done her best to reassure herself that Christopher was different, that he would provide the stability Amelia so deeply craved. The day Amelia announced her pregnancy, Ariana flew back to Chicago to personally congratulate her sister, showering her with extravagant gifts and heartfelt advice. She had even told Christopher, "You'd better take care of her. She's the only sister I have." But Ariana had no inkling of the storm brewing inside the Carter mansion. So when Amelia, tears in her eyes and voice trembling, called Ariana late that evening, the billionaire sister's entire schedule cleared instantly. She cancelled an overseas trip to Dubai for an important tech summit and booked a direct flight back to Chicago within the hour. The pilot, accustomed to Ariana's sudden changes in itinerary, found a way to get her private jet airborne by sunrise. Ariana spent the flight tapping away at her laptop, but her mind kept drifting to Amelia's broken sobs over the phone. The words she'd managed to squeeze out, "I can't believe it's happening, Ariana. She slapped me and Christopher. He stood there just. He's been cheating with Veronica James, had unleashed a fury Ariana hadn't felt in years." As the jet soared through the clouds, Ariana couldn't help but reflect on the times she had tried to caution Amelia about the cunning circles of wealth and power. She remembered how Amelia had insisted Christopher wasn't like other men, that his heart was pure and his love unshakable. Now, Ariana fought to control her mounting rage. How dare he cheat on my pregnant sister? How dare that mistress raise a hand against Amelia? Her fists tightened around the pen she was holding, nearly snapping it. She didn't know who Veronica James was, but if that woman thought she could assault a Carter and face no consequences, she was in for a brutal reckoning. When Ariana arrived in Chicago, the first thing she learned was that Amelia had been taken to a hospital. The stress of the confrontation, coupled with the force of the slap, had led to complications. Fearing for the baby's safety, Christopher had rushed Amelia to a private medical facility where Dr. Cynthia Wilson, one of the top OB-GYNs in the city, was examining her. Ariana wasted no time. Dressed in a sleek black pantsuit, her hair pulled back into a tight chignon, she strode into the hospital lobby. A swarm of paparazzi, somehow tipped off to her arrival, snapped photos, but Ariana brushed them aside without a word. Her top priority was her sister, not the headlines. She found Christopher pacing outside Amelia's private room, face drawn and grey. He looked as though he hadn't slept in days. The second he saw Ariana, he rushed forward with trembling hands. "Ariana, But Ariana wasn't interested in hearing him out. She slapped him across the face, not with the reckless hatred that Veronica had shown, but with a deliberate, stinging force that snapped his head back. Gasps rippled through the corridor, but Ariana didn't care. "That's for betraying my sister," she said in a voice that was ice-cold, the kind of tone that even seasoned board members knew better than to challenge. "If Amelia loses this baby, I swear, Christopher, your life will never be the same." Christopher rubbed his stinging cheek, tears brimming in his eyes. "I never meant for any of this to happen," he croaked. Veronica, she was just..." "Shut up," Ariana ordered, stepping closer. She wasn't tall, but the fury radiating from her made her look like a giant. "We'll talk later. After I see my sister." Pushing past him, Ariana entered Amelia's room. The space was serene, filled with the low hum of machines monitoring Amelia's vitals. Amelia lay there, pale and fragile-looking, her hand resting protectively over her belly. When she saw Ariana, her eyes welled up. "I'm sorry you had to fly all this way," she whispered. "I know how busy you are." Ariana's heart ached. She strode over and gently clasped Amelia's hand. "Don't be sorry," she said softly, leaning in to plant a kiss on her sister's forehead. I should be the one apologizing for not being here. I'm going to make this right, Amelia. Dr. Cynthia Wilson stepped in, a kind-faced woman with a reassuring presence. Miss S. Carter is stable for now, she reported in a hushed tone. We managed to calm her vitals, and the baby is showing normal signs, but we have to keep her under observation. Stress is the worst thing for her right now. Ariana nodded her understanding and let out a slow breath. Anger still simmered in her chest, but she knew she had to be calm for Amelia's sake. She gave her sister's hand a squeeze. "I'll take care of everything," she whispered. "Just focus on getting better. Don't you worry about Christopher or Veronica." Amelia opened her mouth to speak, but the weight of her heartbreak was too heavy. Tears dripped onto the hospital gown, and Ariana gently wiped them away. "Rest," Ariana insisted. "I've got this." Outside, Christopher waited with his hands clasped together, as though he were about to face a firing squad. Ariana exited the room, shutting the door behind her. Their eyes locked, and for a moment the corridor felt like a battlefield. "Talk," Ariana said, folding her arms. "I want every detail, and I want it now." Christopher sagged against the wall, burying his face in his hands. "I made a mistake," he began, voice trembling. "Veronica James is a friend of a friend. She approached me about investing in her fashion boutique, and I thought it was just business at first. But then one thing led to another, and I can't even explain it. I never thought I'd do something like this to Amelia." Ariana's steely gaze never wavered. "This is beyond a mistake. You cheated on your pregnant wife." Her voice rose slightly, making a passing nurse snap her head around in alarm. "You've humiliated her, and you let that woman assault her in your own home. Let me be crystal clear, Christopher. If you think you can slip out of this with a measly apology, you're sorely mistaken." Christopher swallowed hard. "I love Amelia, Ariana. I do. I just got lost." Veronica was so persistent. She threatened to go public with everything if I didn't keep meeting her demands. I was worried about the scandal hurting Amelia and the baby. "Don't spin this," Ariana cut him off. "You made your bed. Now you have to deal with the consequences. For now, stay away from Amelia unless you can be absolutely certain you won't stress her out. If you upset her any further, so help me, Christopher." He nodded miserably, like a schoolboy caught stealing. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said. "Oh, I assure you, you will," Ariana snapped. "This is not over." Later that day, Ariana left the hospital and drove directly to the Carter mansion. As she entered, the silence in the vast corridors felt oppressive, as though even the house was holding its breath after the day's explosive drama. Ariana scanned the rooms, her steps echoing against the marble. Finally, she found Veronica. James seated in the drawing room, leisurely sipping a cup of tea as though nothing were amiss. Veronica looked up, a smirk crossing her face. She set down her cup on the mahogany table with a precise clink. "Ariana Carter, I presume? I've heard so much about you," she purred, feigning politeness. Ariana did not return the smile. She positioned herself across from Veronica, arms crossed, stance wide. "Leave," she ordered, voice low. "Whatever game you think you're playing, it ends now." But Veronica only laughed, a high, mocking sound that reverberated off the gilded walls. What an entrance! And here I was expecting some gracious conversation. "Are you sure you don't want tea? This is a delightful Earl Grey." Ariana's jaw tightened. She was not used to her authority being challenged. "You have 5 minutes to pack up and get out of my sister's home. If you don't, I'll have security escort you out. And trust me, I'm not one to bluff." Veronica leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs with regal indifference. "Now, why would I leave willingly? Christopher wants me here, and if you haven't heard, we've been quite close." A flicker of rage flashed across Ariana's eyes. She hadn't come here to debate. "I know exactly who you are and what you've done," she hissed. "You assaulted my pregnant sister. If you think there won't be legal repercussions, you're dead wrong. I've already contacted one of the best attorneys in the state, Michael Jacobs. He's more than ready to file assault charges." The mention of legal action made Veronica's smirk falter, but only for a second. She quickly recovered, flipping her hair with a casual shrug. "You want to take me to court? Fine, go ahead. But I'm sure the media will have a field day once I reveal the details of Christopher's indiscretions. By the time I'm done, your family name will be in tatters." Unfazed, Ariana leaned in, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "You think you can blackmail me with scandal? You might want to do your research on how I handle blackmailers." Veronica's posture stiffened. "We'll see," she said, though her confidence seemed slightly rattled. "You can't protect Christopher from the choices he's made. He came to me, Ariana. And if your precious sister was more exciting, maybe he wouldn't have strayed in the first place." Ariana's vision blurred with white-hot anger. She had heard enough. With a quick gesture, she pulled out her phone. "Lucas Rogers," she said into it, naming the head of her personal security team stationed outside. "Come in." A moment later, Lucas Rogers, a towering, broad-shouldered man, entered the drawing room with two other security officers. Their presence, swift and imposing, made Veronica's eyes widen in real fear. Ariana pointed at Veronica. "Miss James is leaving immediately. Ensure she doesn't take any property that isn't hers. Then escort her off the premises." Veronica's outrage ignited. She jumped to her feet, her face twisted in fury. "You can't do this," she spat. "Christopher said I could stay." Ariana's calm smile was more chilling than any roar. "Christopher doesn't have a say anymore. This is my sister's house, and her name is on the deed. If you want to fight in court, be my guest. But I'm done playing this ridiculous game. Now, get out." Lucas and the two officers advanced. Veronica grabbed her purse in a huff, throwing a lethal glare at Ariana as she stomped toward the door. "This isn't over," she shouted, her voice echoing down the grand hallway. "I'm counting on it," Ariana replied under her breath. And just like that, Veronica was gone, booted from the Carter mansion in a humiliating display she would not soon forget. Ariana exhaled slowly, a momentary rush of satisfaction warming her veins. Yet she knew the real battle was just beginning. Veronica was not the type to walk away gracefully, and Christopher's betrayal had fractured Amelia's heart. There was still a mountain of anguish to scale before the situation could be set right. If it could be set right at all. Over the following days, Amelia remained in the hospital under careful observation. Ariana visited daily, bringing gourmet lunches, stacks of magazines, and even a few business journals to keep Amelia's mind occupied. Despite these efforts, Amelia struggled to find peace. Her eyes still held the haunted look of someone who had watched her dreams disintegrate before her very eyes. Meanwhile, Christopher was caught in a whirlwind. He was forced to address mounting inquiries from both the press and his own family, who were scandalized by rumors swirling around Veronica James. Some tabloids caught wind that the Mistress had been unceremoniously thrown out of the Carter mansion, fueling sensational headlines like "Heir to the Carter Fortune in Shocking Love Triangle" and "Billionaire Sister Intervenes in Scandalous Affair." In the midst of this media frenzy, Ariana maintained a measured, almost surgical approach. She had her lawyers file a protective order against Veronica for the assault on Amelia, ensuring that Veronica would face charges if she attempted contact. But Ariana knew that legal measures alone wouldn't extinguish Veronica's thirst for vengeance. If Veronica had damaging information about Christopher, she could still wreak havoc by going public. And while Ariana was fiercely protective of her sister, she also recognized the precarious balance between saving Amelia's sanity and crushing Veronica's schemes. One afternoon, Ariana sat at Amelia's bedside. Amelia stared at her reflection in a small handheld mirror, unconsciously touching the faint bruise that remained on her cheek. "I keep thinking this is some nightmare I'll wake up from," Amelia said softly. "Christopher was so kind to me at the beginning. I don't know this person he's turned into." Ariana sighed, reaching over to take the mirror from Amelia's hand. "He made a terrible mistake. I can't speak for him, but I'll make sure you're protected, no matter what." Amelia nodded, tears glistening. "Thank you for everything. I don't know what I'd do without you." Just then, Christopher walked in, carrying a bouquet of white lilies. He approached cautiously, as though expecting Ariana to pounce. "Amelia," he said, voice thick with regret, "I wanted to check on you." Ariana rose to her feet, sizing him up with narrowed eyes. He shot her a pleading look. "May I have a moment alone with my wife?" Amelia's eyes flicked to Ariana. After a short, tense pause, Amelia nodded. "Just a few minutes." Ariana hesitated but finally stepped out of the room. She lingered by the door, arms folded, prepared to intervene if Christopher caused the slightest distress. Inside, Christopher set the lilies on a side table. "They're your favorite," he said quietly. "I remember how you used to say their fragrance reminded you of spring mornings on your grandmother's farm." Amelia looked at the flowers without emotion. "I can't forget what you've done, but this baby, it's ours. I'm only thinking of how to keep my stress down for the child's sake." Christopher rubbed his neck, anguish etched into his features. "I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness. What I did was inexcusable. Veronica was never supposed to mean anything. She blackmailed me, threatened to ruin my career and yours if I didn't comply. I was weak. I should have come to you, told you the truth." Amelia's face softened for a moment, but she quickly hardened again. "I don't want to talk about Veronica," she said. "And I'm tired. I need rest." He bowed his head. "Okay, I'll go. But please know I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back." When Ariana re-entered, she found Amelia with tears rolling silently down her cheeks. The exhaustion in her sister's eyes spoke volumes. Ariana understood that Christopher's remorse might be genuine, but the damage was severe. Amelia would need time, and possibly more than time, to heal from this betrayal. No sooner had Ariana gotten a semblance of control over the situation than a shocking development plunged the entire fiasco into deeper chaos. One morning, Ariana's personal assistant, Carmen Rogers, burst into Ariana's penthouse suite at the Four Seasons Hotel with panic in her eyes. "Ariana, we have an issue," Carmen said, nearly breathless. "Veronica James just released a tell-all interview online." Ariana's fingers flew over her laptop keyboard, calling up the website in question. There it was, a sensational tabloid piece. Veronica James reveals the ugly truth behind Christopher Carter's marriage. In the article, Veronica spewed vile accusations, claiming Amelia was a manipulative spouse who ignored Christopher's needs, that Amelia drove Christopher into her arms, and even that Amelia had plotted to trap Christopher with the pregnancy. Ariana could feel her anger spike with every venomous sentence. Veronica twisted the narrative expertly, painting herself as the misunderstood victim. Worse yet, she hinted at possessing intimate photos and potential recordings of her time with Christopher, threatening to release them unless justice was served. It was vile blackmail disguised as a public appeal. Gritting her teeth, Ariana took a calming breath and called Michael Jacobs, her family's lead attorney. He answered on the first ring. "I've seen the article," Michael said immediately. "We can pursue defamation charges, but the burden of proof can be tricky. She's using suggestive language rather than outright stating facts. We might tie her up in court, but if she truly has compromising material on Christopher, this could get messier." Ariana's mind spun. She needed a more direct approach, something that would neutralize Veronica's threats immediately. Let's consider an injunction to prevent her from releasing any alleged recordings until the assault case is resolved, she suggested. Michael hesitated. We can try, but it'll depend on the judge. These matters can be complicated if Veronica claims it's her personal property. Do it anyway, Ariana ordered. Time is of the essence. As she hung up, Ariana realized she was stepping onto a battlefield that demanded more than just lawyers and gag orders. Veronica was determined to destroy Amelia's reputation as well. Ariana's phone buzzed again this time, with calls from journalists, business colleagues, and even friends from her philanthropic circles. Everyone wanted a comment on the scandal. If Ariana stayed silent too long, the narrative Veronica was spinning would become the dominant one. Summoning her assistant, Ariana said, "Carmen, schedule a press conference. Keep it private, just the major outlets. I'm going to address this head-on." Carmen's eyes widened. Are you sure that's wise? The media is feasting on this. Ariana squared her shoulders. I don't care. If Veronica thinks she can bully my sister into silence, she has another thing coming. That afternoon, Ariana held a closed-door press briefing at an upscale event hall in downtown Chicago. The atmosphere hummed with tension as selected journalists and reporters shuffled into the room, cameras at the ready. They knew Ariana Carter was not someone who casually addressed the media. Whatever she was about to say, it would be significant. Wearing a composed expression, Ariana took the podium. She briefly acknowledged the crowd before diving into her statement. In recent days, there have been disturbing allegations made by Miss Veronica James against my sister, Amelia Carter, and my brother-in-law, Christopher Carter. I want to be absolutely clear. These allegations are nothing more than baseless fabrications intended to harm a pregnant woman and our family during a vulnerable time. She paused, letting the flash of cameras pop in the silence. My sister was the victim of a physical assault perpetrated by Miss James in the Carter family home. We have pursued legal actions accordingly. Miss James is attempting to deflect from her wrongdoing by making false claims about Amelia's character. Let it be known that we will not be intimidated, nor will we allow these lies to stand unchallenged. We have every intention of pursuing all necessary legal remedies to protect Amelia and our family's reputation. A handful of reporters shouted questions as soon as Ariana finished her statement. Miss Carter, do you deny that Christopher Carter was having an affair with Veronica James? One asked. Ariana held up her hand. The details of Christopher's relationship will be handled privately. My focus is on Amelia's well-being and ensuring Miss James faces the legal consequences for her assault. Thank you for your time. She stepped away from the podium, ignoring the avalanche of follow-up queries. Carmen escorted her out, where they slipped into a waiting SUV, heading straight back to the hospital to be with Amelia. Ariana felt a measure of relief. She had publicly defended her sister and set the record straight about Veronica's lies. Yet, deep down, she knew this was just the opening salvo in a larger war. The press conference sparked a new wave of media speculation. While some outlets were sympathetic to Amelia, others salivated over the sensational angle of the affair, devoting hour-long show segments to dissecting the love triangle. It was a feeding frenzy that threatened to overshadow any attempt to remain dignified. True to form, Veronica James did not remain silent. She took to social media, posting cryptic messages about Christopher's alleged confessions and teasing the release of damning evidence if Ariana continued to smear her name. The public, eagerly awaiting any scandalous twist, lapped it up. In private, Christopher was a wreck. He spent nights in the guest wing of the Carter mansion, haunted by the shame of his betrayal. He tried repeatedly to apologize to Amelia in the hospital, bringing flowers and baby gifts, but the emotional chasm between them felt insurmountable. Amelia accepted his visits only because Dr. Cynthia Wilson advised that hostility would raise her stress levels. She remained heartbreakingly distant, speaking to Christopher with the kind of politeness reserved for a stranger. Ariana, however, kept busy. She was determined to expose Veronica for the manipulative predator she was. Through her vast network, Ariana discovered that Veronica had a history of latching onto wealthy men, extracting money, and then destroying their reputations when they tried to break free. Veronica had grown adept at using tabloids, paparazzi, and online leaks to bolster her claims and keep her name in the spotlight. Each new morsel of scandal gave her leverage to threaten her victims with more publicity if they dared cross her. Armed with this knowledge, Ariana dug deeper. She hired private investigators who traced Veronica's financial transactions, phone records, and previous lawsuits filed by or against her. Slowly, a pattern emerged, a chain of heartbreak and financial extortion that linked Veronica to at least 3 other affluent men, 2 of whom had faced humiliating public shaming after Veronica's allegations. In each case, the men had settled out of court for large sums of money, presumably to keep Veronica quiet. Ariana smiled grimly when the evidence was laid out before her. With proper presentation, they could discredit Veronica publicly and illustrate that her vendetta against Christopher was part of a larger scheme. This was the ammunition Ariana needed to counteract Veronica's malicious threats. But Ariana also recognized one crucial weakness: Christopher's own guilt. If Veronica truly possessed incriminating photos, Christopher might be humiliated. The baby's future could be overshadowed by a very public scandal. Ariana could handle corporate warfare and paparazzi harassment, but she refused to let her unborn niece or nephew bear the brunt of a media circus. Just when Ariana believed she had a handle on how to dismantle Veronica's smear campaign, fate dealt another card. A detective named Gregory Townsend from the Chicago Police Department arrived at the Carter mansion with surprising news. He asked to speak privately with Ariana. In Christopher's study, Townsend explained the purpose of his visit. "Miss Carter, I'm investigating some missing persons and suspicious overdoses connected to Miss Veronica James," he said. "Shh. I understand your family is currently in a legal dispute with her. We've come across evidence that suggests she's been supplying certain types of narcotics to high-profile individuals. We believe some of her associates have died under suspicious circumstances." A chill ran down Ariana's spine. "Are you suggesting that Veronica is involved in something more nefarious than blackmail?" Townsend pressed his lips together. "We don't have definitive proof yet, but we suspect she's part of a ring that provides illicit drugs to wealthy clients. Some of these clients might have overdosed, but the circumstances are unclear. We have reason to believe Miss James is more dangerous than previously thought." Ariana exhaled slowly, absorbing this new revelation. "So, how can I help? We're looking for financial records, phone logs, anything that might tie Miss James to these activities. If you have investigators, they might have stumbled upon something that could be relevant to our inquiry. We're also interested in Miss James' recent threats and any communications she might have sent, particularly references to settlements or hush money." Ariana hesitated. Sharing her private investigator's findings with law enforcement was a significant step, and one that could escalate the conflict. But if Veronica was truly involved in criminal activities beyond blackmail, then cooperating with the police could be a powerful way to neutralize her. "I'll have my team gather what we have," Ariana said at last, her voice resolute. "If it helps protect my family and potentially save others from whatever Veronica is planning, then I'm in." Townsend gave her a firm nod. "Thank you. This could be a turning point." Little did Ariana know how right he was. By aligning with the police investigation, she was about to push Veronica into a corner, prompting a response that would be more vicious and personal than she'd ever anticipated. Within a week of Ariana sharing her evidence with Detective Townsend, Veronica's fury unleashed like a dam bursting. One quiet evening, as Ariana returned from the hospital, Carmen met her in the mansion's foyer, eyes wide with alarm. "Ariana, there's a video," Carmen gasped, thrusting an iPad into her boss's hands. "What kind of video?" Ariana asked, but her question was answered the moment she looked at the screen. It was surveillance footage from an undisclosed location, showing Christopher, visibly intoxicated, in a compromising situation with Veronica. The timestamp indicated it was months old, around the time Veronica claimed their affair began. Ariana's stomach churned. The visuals were graphic enough to be extremely damaging, not just to Christopher, but also to Amelia's peace of mind. "No one has posted it publicly yet," Carmen said, "but an anonymous email threatened to leak it to every media outlet in the city if you don't drop the charges against Miss James." Ariana inhaled sharply, grappling with a surge of rage and frustration. This was Veronica's blackmail at its ugliest. She was desperate to escape criminal scrutiny and would drag everyone through the mud if her demands weren't met. Steadying herself, Ariana placed the iPad on a nearby table. "Forward the email to Michael Jacobs," she instructed Carmen, "and get me Christopher, now." Moments later, Christopher shuffled into the foyer. He looked at Ariana questioningly before she showed him the footage. His face went ashen. "I had no idea she recorded this," Christopher said in a hollow voice. "I never would have. God, what am I going to do if this gets out?" Ariana fixed him with a cold stare. "You should have thought of that before you destroyed my sister's trust." Christopher sank to his knees, burying his face in his hands. "I deserve this, but Amelia, she doesn't deserve any of this." Ariana's anger faltered. Despite her fury, she recognized that Christopher was grappling with genuine remorse. "Stand up," she said. "We don't have time for self-pity. We need to figure out a plan. If we give in to Veronica, she'll keep extorting us. We need to hold our ground." Christopher rose shakily, tears brimming. "I'll do whatever you say." Ariana studied him, then took a careful breath. "The police suspect Veronica is involved in drug trafficking, possibly linked to deaths. She's more than a mistress on a power trip. She's a criminal who'll do anything to save her own skin. This is bigger than just saving face for you. If she's cornered, she might do worse." Christopher swallowed hard. "What do we do now?" Ariana's gaze hardened. "We expose her first." Determined to end the madness, Ariana devised a strategy. She invited Detective Townsend to the mansion for a private meeting with Christopher and Michael Jacobs. The plan was to lure Veronica into a controlled setting under the guise of negotiating a payoff to drop charges and hush the scandal. The second Veronica incriminated herself, the police would have grounds for immediate arrest. Christopher was visibly nervous, fearful that any slip-up might make the situation worse. But Ariana insisted. "This is our chance," she told him. "If Veronica records this meeting, it won't matter. We'll be wiretapping her right back, with the police's full support. Once we have proof she's blackmailing you and distributing illegal substances, Townsend can take her down." That evening, Christopher called Veronica. He spun a story of desperation, claiming that Ariana was forcing his hand, but he would be willing to secretly pay Veronica off to protect Amelia and the baby. As expected, Veronica took the bait. She demanded a face-to-face meeting at a secluded Airbnb on the city's outskirts, specifying that Christopher should come alone. However, Ariana and Townsend had every intention of being close by, armed with recording devices and a small security team. The Airbnb would be rigged with hidden cameras. Everything would be documented and ready for law enforcement to intervene. On the appointed night, Christopher arrived first. The cabin-like Airbnb sat at the end of a winding road, surrounded by tall pines. Christopher's heart pounded as he waited inside, fiddling anxiously with the hidden microphone taped beneath his shirt collar. He thought about Amelia, about the baby, about how his life had spiraled out of control. Let this work, he prayed silently. Let this be over. The door swung open, and Veronica strutted in, eyes cold and calculating. She closed the door behind her, scanning the small living room suspiciously. "Are you alone?" she demanded. Christopher forced a shaky grin. "Yes. Ariana still thinks I'm meeting with my lawyers. I had to sneak out to do this." Veronica tossed her purse onto the couch, crossing her arms. "So? How much are we talking about?" Christopher cleared his throat. "I can wire you $2 million tonight, but you have to destroy every piece of evidence you have against me. No more interviews, no more videos." Veronica arched an eyebrow, a dangerous gleam in her eye. $2 million? Do I look that cheap to you? The footage I have is worth way more than that. And let's not forget the potential drug charges. You and your precious Ariana can't pin anything on me if we settle. So I want $5 million minimum. Christopher swallowed, his hands trembling. "Fine," he managed to say, trying to keep his voice steady. "But you have to hand over everything you've got. Every recording, every photo, every document." Veronica's lips curled into a smug smile. She pulled out a small USB stick from her purse, dangling it like a prize. "This has everything," she taunted. "No copies, no backups. Just this. Give me the money, and it's yours. Then I'm out of your life for good." Christopher glanced toward the fireplace, where one hidden camera was placed. He hoped the device was capturing every word. "How do I know I can trust you?" "You don't," Veronica replied with a dark laugh. "But do you really have a choice?" His jaw clenched. "All right, let's do it." In that moment, a sudden bang shattered the tense silence. The door burst open, revealing Detective Townsend and two officers, guns drawn. "Police! Don't move!" Townsend shouted. Veronica whirled around, eyes wild with panic. She saw Christopher stepping back, his phone out, and realized she had walked straight into a trap. "You bastard!" she screamed, flinging the USB stick at him in a blind rage. It hit his shoulder and clattered to the floor. Townsend and the officers lunged, pinning Veronica's arms behind her back. She shrieked curses, twisting and kicking as they forced her to the ground. "You can't do this. You have no proof." Townsend smirked grimly. "We have you on tape demanding $5 million in exchange for destroying incriminating evidence. That's extortion. Plus, you assaulted Miss S. Carter, which is already in the system, and we have ample evidence suggesting your involvement in drug trafficking. You've got nowhere to run, Miss James." Veronica's eyes glistened with hatred. She spat at Christopher, but the officers kept her restrained. "You'll regret this. I'll make sure your life is ruined." Christopher ignored the venom, stepping backward, tears brimming. Ariana, who had been monitoring the scene from just outside, entered. Her gaze met Veronica's with cold triumph. "This is for Amelia," Ariana thought silently. In a flurry of curses and threats, Veronica was hauled away. Townsend scooped up the USB stick, handing it to Ariana in a sealed evidence bag. "We'll analyze it, but based on everything we already have, Miss James is facing substantial prison time." Christopher sank onto the couch, hands shaking. Ariana placed a hand on his shoulder, the tension of the night overwhelming them both. "It's over," she whispered, almost unable to believe it herself. But Christopher knew better than to assume everything was resolved. He had still betrayed Amelia, and no number of arrests or legal victories would erase that fact. The real fight for Amelia's trust was only just beginning. News of Veronica James's arrest exploded across the media. While the details of the undercover operation were kept under wraps, headlines blared variations of Veronica James taken into custody, shocking new twist in Carter scandal, and blackmail and illicit activities, Mistress exposed. For a brief moment, public sentiment swayed in favor of Amelia. The narrative turned from jilted wife, overshadowed by flamboyant mistress, to victimized mother, to be targeted by a dangerous con artist. Ariana's name surfaced, too praised for her swift action and unwavering resolve. All the while, Amelia remained in the hospital, her condition improving, but her heart still shattered. When she finally felt stable enough to leave, Ariana arranged for a private car to take her to a serene retreat in Lake Forest, far from the prying eyes of reporters. A lush estate with sweeping lawns and a lakeside view awaited her, a temporary haven where she could convalesce in peace. Ariana visited daily, ensuring Amelia had the best medical care, nutrition, and even therapy sessions with a renowned counselor, Dr. Sarah Thompson. "You have to heal emotionally just as much as physically," Ariana told her gently. Amelia nodded, stroking her belly. "The baby's okay, thank God, but I feel numb." Christopher's betrayal. "It's like I'm caught between heartbreak and relief that Veronica's gone." Ariana sat beside her on a plush sofa, overlooking the water. "You can take all the time you need to sort through your feelings," she said. "No one is rushing you." Just then, Christopher arrived. He had requested to see Amelia, and she had reluctantly agreed. He walked in hesitantly, a single white rose in hand. "Amelia," he said, voice thick with emotion, "you look better." Amelia regarded him coolly. "I'm physically better, yes." He extended the rose, placing it on a side table when she made no move to take it. "I'm glad Veronica is behind bars. I'm sorry I put you through all of this. You didn't deserve any of it." Amelia inhaled deeply, trying to keep her composure. "I can't pretend everything's okay. You broke my trust in the worst possible way." Christopher bowed his head. "I know. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you, if you'll let me. But if you can't forgive me, I understand." Tears glinted in Amelia's eyes, but she fought them back. "I don't know what I want yet. You promised to be faithful, to protect me, and you failed." Her voice shook slightly. "I need time, Christopher. Time to think about our marriage, our child, and whether we can have a future together." He nodded, eyes glassy. "I'll give you whatever space you need." Ariana, watching from the corner of the room, felt a tug of empathy. Christopher was remorseful, but that wouldn't magically mend Amelia's shattered heart. Healing would require patience, commitment, and honesty, things Christopher had to prove he was capable of giving. Days turned into weeks, and life began to settle into a new normal. The scandal, while not forgotten, waned in the public eye, replaced by fresh news cycles. Veronica James remained in custody, facing multiple charges that her high-priced attorneys struggled to dismiss. Ariana spent part of each day managing her business empire remotely. Mergers, acquisitions, and philanthropic initiatives continued, but she delegated more responsibilities to her executive team, prioritizing Amelia's recovery. Amelia, for her part, embraced therapy with Dr. Thompson. She also began planning for the baby, picking out nursery themes and browsing baby clothes online. The simple act of imagining the child's future helped her channel her energy into something hopeful. During this period, Christopher wrote daily letters to Amelia. He didn't text or call often, respecting her need for space, but every evening a handwritten note arrived at the Lake Forest estate. He confessed his regrets, his love, and his desire to be a better man. Sometimes Amelia read them, sometimes she didn't, Yet the consistent sincerity in his words slowly chipped away at the wall she'd built around her heart. One late afternoon, Amelia sat on a wicker chair by the lake. The sky was streaked with oranges and pinks, the water shimmering in the dying light. She held Christopher's latest letter unopened. Ariana quietly approached, sitting on the chair next to her. "Another one?" Ariana asked softly, nodding to the envelope. Amelia nodded. "He doesn't give up." Ariana hesitated. "You'll have to decide eventually whether you want a life with him or not." Amelia gazed out at the water, her thoughts distant. "He hurt me, Ariana, but he also saved me in the end." He stood up to Veronica, helped put her behind bars. "And there was a time before all this when we were genuinely happy. I don't know if that can ever come back, but I do care about him." Ariana's expression softened. "You don't owe anyone forgiveness. But if it's what you truly want, then it's your choice. I'll support you no matter what." Amelia's eyes filled with tears. She reached over and squeezed Ariana's hand. "I wouldn't have survived this without you. Thank you for defending me, for believing in me, for everything." They sat there in silence, the soft splash of water against the shore lulling them into a calm. In that peaceful setting, Amelia found the courage to open Christopher's letter. She read his heartfelt words, tears slipping down her cheeks. For the first time in a long while, she felt the stirrings of hope. A few days later, Amelia asked Christopher to visit her at the Lake Forest estate. He arrived, unsure of what to expect. To his surprise, Amelia greeted him outside, her hand resting on her growing belly, the late afternoon sun framing her in a warm glow. "I read your letters," she said, voice trembling. "All of them." Christopher nodded, his hands clasped in front of him, as though he were afraid to move. "I meant every word. I'm so sorry I messed things up." Amelia studied his face, the lines of remorse, the desperation etched into every angle. She remembered the laughter they once shared, the gentle comfort of his arms, the whispered promises of a life together. "Is that life completely gone?" she asked herself. "Or could they rebuild?" She took a breath, summoning the courage to speak. "I'm not sure I'll ever forget what happened. But I want this baby to have a father. I'm willing to try counseling, see if we can find a way forward. Slowly, on my terms." Christopher's eyes shone with tears. "I'll do whatever it takes." They didn't embrace right away. Instead, Amelia led him along a paved path by the lake. They walked in tentative silence, the wind rustling through the trees. It was symbolic, a slow step toward rebuilding trust, acknowledging the pain but daring to hope for healing. In the weeks that followed, Amelia and Christopher attended couples therapy, working through the layers of hurt and betrayal. It was a difficult process, emotional and raw, but it also illuminated the cracks that had formed in their relationship long before Veronica entered the picture. Amelia learned how to voice her fears and needs, and Christopher confronted his insecurities that led him to stray. Throughout it all, Ariana remained a steadfast pillar of support. She balanced her philanthropic events and corporate responsibilities with daily check-ins. She even invited Amelia and Christopher to family dinners, forging opportunities for them to reconnect under her watchful eye. No one pushed for rushed reconciliation. It was a gradual, fragile mending of hearts. By the end of Amelia's 7th month of pregnancy, her health had significantly improved. The baby was thriving, and the doctors assured her that her stress levels were manageable. Though the memory of Veronica's slap still lingered a bruise on her soul rather than her skin, Amelia had reclaimed her sense of security. The Carter mansion, once the site of heartbreak, was renovated to symbolize a fresh start. Ariana oversaw the project, ensuring that old memories were literally painted over and replaced with a more hopeful aesthetic. The criminal case against Veronica was ongoing, but the evidence was overwhelming. Facing near certain conviction, she tried to negotiate a plea deal. Neither Ariana nor Amelia attended those hearings. They had chosen to move forward, focusing on the new life that would soon join their family. One crisp morning in December, Amelia went into labor. Christopher held her hand through every contraction, whispering words of encouragement and wiping sweat from her brow. Ariana waited anxiously in the hospital corridor, along with a handful of close friends. After hours of intense effort, Dr. Cynthia Wilson emerged with a triumphant smile. "Congratulations, you have a healthy baby girl." Tears of relief and joy flooded Ariana's eyes. She rushed into the delivery room, where Amelia cradled a tiny bundle in her arms. Christopher by her side. The baby's soft cries echoed, filling them with awe. Ariana approached, gently touching the newborn's downy head. "She's perfect," Ariana whispered. Amelia smiled through tears, her eyes flicking to Christopher, then to Ariana. "We're naming her Alexandra Grace Carter," she said. "Ariana, I want her middle name Grace to remind us of the grace we've found in forgiveness and resilience." Christopher, gazing at his child, nodded in gratitude. "And we want you to be her godmother," he said, his voice cracking. "We wouldn't have made it through this without you." Emotion welled in Ariana's chest. She placed a tender kiss on Alexandra's forehead. "I'd be honored," she whispered. The moment felt like a culmination of all their suffering, courage, and love poured into one fragile new life. In the weeks that followed, Amelia and Christopher marveled at their daughter's every coo and stretch. They chose to attend regular therapy sessions, building a stronger foundation for their family. While the scars of betrayal might never fully vanish, they were learning to navigate life's storms with humility and honesty. Ariana, too, found a renewed perspective. She poured herself into philanthropic work aimed at supporting battered women and pregnant mothers who had suffered domestic strife. She channeled her resources into creating safe havens and offering legal aid, determined that no woman should have to endure what Amelia had. And so, in a grand but quiet way, the Carter family began its next chapter. Gone were the illusions of perfection, replaced by hard-earned truths about loyalty, love, and the fierce bonds of sisterhood. In their opulent world, the simplest blessing, a healthy baby, became the grandest treasure of all. Through tears, trials, and an unbreakable sisterly bond, Amelia and Ariana reminded everyone that no matter how dark the storm, a new dawn would always break, carrying hope on its golden rays. In the end, this riveting tale isn't just about betrayal or scandal, it's a powerful reminder that resilience can rise from life's darkest moments. Amelia found her inner strength to confront heartbreak and protect her unborn child, refusing to be overshadowed by a ruthless mistress's schemes. Ariana, the billionaire's sister, proved that unwavering loyalty and calculated action could topple even the most cunning adversary. Together, they took back control of their lives, exposing Veronica's crimes and forging a path toward healing. Now that you've witnessed every twist and turn, from that shocking slap in the mansion's foyer to the triumphant delivery of Amelia's baby girl, don't let this story end here. If you found inspiration or insight in these pages, show your support, hit that like button, share this drama with friends who crave a thrilling read, and subscribe for more compelling stories yet to come.